You're listening to the BBM Global Network with 25 years in broadcast audio and video production. Our passionate team creates content and marketing for the world of Internet Talk Radio. If you've got a passion, come join us at bbmglobalnetwork.com. The BBM Global Network. Your voice is now heard.
We all need self-expression. The most effective way to express ourselves is through words. But according to the Stuttering Foundation, close to 80 million people worldwide stutter today. This is Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. After years of practicing conventional speech therapy, Anna Deeter has pioneered a new and effective approach to this debilitating habit. So now, please welcome the host of Live Stutter-Free, Anna Deeter.
Happy Friday, my dear friends. You're listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter, on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And today's topic of the show will be learn who you really are and stop stuttering. But before we go to this amazing topic and we're going to discuss who we humans really are and why stuttering is a man-made problem, so I would like to present my opening statement. Live Stutter-Free has already traveled in time to Russia of the end of 19th century, then to the United States of America of the beginning and midst of 20th century. We studied some facts about the birth and the first steps of those who started and shaped today's international industry called speech and language pathology. You, my dear listeners, learned about a few pioneers of this profession in two countries, Russia and the United States of America. According to the public information, in the United States of America, all the pioneers of speech and language pathology industry were hard working and extremely passionate men who stuttered themselves. Yes, each of them suffered from a set of their individual stupor blocks that restricted their freedom to move with ease their speech organs. They all felt these restrictions, but they didn't know what it was because those blocks were invisible to them as they are for millions of those who stutter today worldwide. The founders of the speech and language pathology profession were not physically capable of unblocking even themselves independently because, once again, they couldn't see their own blocks. And they themselves needed help of someone capable to see, point to, and guide them in removing of their individual blocks. But instead of investing money in studying the speech behavior of normal speakers and developing the reference point of the natural speech norms, someone chose to finance the project of gathering, putting together, and studying people who stuttered themselves. And then someone led them developed methods of dealing with stuttering. Some evil force used this passionate but totally incompetent man. Someone put them in charge of advising other people who also suffered from exactly the same lack of competence. There is a saying in the early Christian writings called the Gospel of Thomas. It states, if a blind person leads a blind person, both of them will fall into a hole. The reality is that people who stutter, whether they have a degree of a speech language pathologist or not, all people who stutter cannot see their own stupor blocks. They are mentally blind. This means that when a stutterer leads another stutterer, both of them will inevitably fall into a hole as well. What kind of a hole is this? It is the life of ignorance, confusion, lack of recognizing and understanding reality. This is the hole where people believe and live according to lies. It is the life of a slave. Yes, people who stutter live in hell on earth. Millions of people worldwide live today in such hell. Trusting and supporting financially blind men with speech and language pathology degree to assist millions of other blind men but without SLP degree is an international crime. Unfortunately, we as a society allowed this insanity, and today we pay the price. Millions of us suffer from our own ignorance, stupidity, and unfortunately, greed. We got into this hole together, and only together we can pull ourselves out of this hole. So what should we begin with? Live Stutter-Free offers 100% reliable, effective, and permanent solution for the elimination of stuttering. But first, we must understand reality. We must see reality. We should not be blind. The key to solving our problem, any problem in our life, is to have a clear vision of what exactly we are dealing with. It is important to first observe and clearly see the real situation. This is why before academic Snishko, Russian independent scientist, solved the problem of stuttering in 1998, he spent many years studying the behavior of a human, an individual who performs and takes responsibility for his own actions with his internal power of volition and willpower. Based on thousands of experiments and practical demonstrations, academic Roman Snishko discovered and explained what each of us really is, what components we really are made of, what natural laws we humans must really follow in order to function without any problem or to solve any problem that we have already created, and what power really executes and controls naturally all our actions. We're coming to the commercial break. When we come back, we're going to begin an amazing topic, who we are and how to stop stuttering. Talk to you in a bit.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
You are listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host Anna Deeter on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Today's topic of our show is learn who you really are and stop stuttering. Live stutter-free. How can we accomplish that? In reality, it is pretty simple. When we lose our blindness, let's put it this way. So let's begin. I have so much material that I prepared to share with you, and I'm going to do my best to share as much as I can, and we're going to continue talking about it next Friday. It is very useful to know who each and every human really is. I'm going to begin with a definition that has all the little details, and then I'm going to go into these details explaining what this really means. Here we go. Each human is a sensory volition center, I am, that verbally and non-verbally operates his or her electromagnetic body-mind system by means of a measuring tool called attention. See, it's kind of a big definition. But first of all, I want you to understand this, how Mr. Snishko explains that at the moment of our birth, each of us receives an amazing gift. Our Creator, and of course, who is our Creator? It's Mother Nature, if you don't believe in God, or God, if you do believe in God. So our Creator, some higher intelligence that did create us humans, our Creator supplies us at the moment of our birth with a brand new bio device called body-mind, body and mind. And this device is equipped with everything necessary for us, its owners, to explore the life around and to live a comfortable, healthy, and of course, productive life. All we need to do is to play with this device, experience using it for various purposes in our life for our own benefit. And of course, each of us has different purpose, right? We all have different desires. Our job is to figure out how to use this device in accordance with the operating instructions of our Creator. Yes, our Creator who created this body-mind device, which is universal. No matter what size, what shape, what color we are, we all have exactly the same universal device called body, mind, machine, and we use it in the same universal way. So our job is to play with this device, to experience, to learn how to use this device. But unfortunately, for various reasons, which we're not going to talk about today, maybe next show, for various reasons, some people do not do their job well. They stop themselves from exploring this world. People who stutter stop playing with their body-mind device when they are very young. This is what usually the case normally. Of course, it could happen later, but most of the time, people who stutter stop learning to use their body-mind device when they're very young. And there is no surprise. No wonder they never get to figure out how to use this device for adequate speaking. Adult stutterers keep asking, why me? Who is at fault for my stuttering? They blame various external factors, dogs, people, situations, but they are not aware of reality. I'm gonna repeat again. People who stutter are mentally blinded. They don't see where their block is. And because they never played with their device, never did the speech work, they blocked themselves from doing their speech work at some time in their childhood or sometimes later. And they blocked themselves not just from doing their speech work, but from the result of this work, the adequate speaking skill. Stutterers have not figured it out naturally, the operating instructions of their body-mind device for speaking. And these operating instructions of any body-mind device manufactured by our creator, as I said, they're universal, they're the same. It is just like, for example, if you are iPhone owner, which I am, okay, if I'm showing my iPhone now in my hands, because some of you may want to see me on YouTube. I'm recording this show, and after the show I just posted on YouTube, my YouTube channel. Go to Anna Deeter YouTube channel, and I recommend and watch all these shows. So if you are the owner of the iPhone 7 Plus manufactured by a group of Apple developers, each and every cell phone has the same universal operating instructions, right? If you are an iPhone user who is still unfamiliar with these instructions, you will inevitably struggle to use this device adequately. You will basically stutter to use this device. You may shake the phone, blow in it, stroke it, or perform some other actions that iPhone's creators never meant to be performed by users in order to operate this device. The iPhone will not even start until you, its user, will figure it out and begin to follow precisely operating instructions, which are press home to open. So let's continue after the commercial break. Talk to you in a bit.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
You are listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host Anna Deeter on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. So, and I mentioned at the end of the second segment that we use our body-mind device, which is absolutely universal, the way we use it. Just like as we need to follow precisely the operating instructions of using any other device, I gave you an example of an iPhone. We also need to follow precisely the universal operating instructions of the creator, of the one who created this universal bio device called body-mind, and who put us, conscious beings of energy, in charge for operating it. So it is extremely important to realize that our creator did not just supply each of us with the most sophisticated bio device for exploring life, but the creator also gave us the power of volition, the freedom to choose what, when, and how we want to explore. So let me explain what I mean by saying that each human is a sensory volition center. I am. This little phrase, I am, has come to us from ancient times, and it's often found in the Bible. So if you are familiar with Bible, you probably will relate to my words. The Bible states, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. What it means? In simple words, according to the Bible, the phrase I am means an eternal existence of the observer. How do I put it in simple words? That each of us is this eternal, conscious observer by the name I am. He or she observes everything observable at the present moment in both realities. What I'm talking about, what realities? Very simple. One reality is a physical reality. It's called the matter, the world of real materialistic things, including our physical body. It's something that we can touch, that we can see, we can feel, right? And also the other reality is the fine matter of information. It's the world of our imagination. It's our thought forms. It's our mind. I am is a center of all these observations. It collects, analyzes, and controls all sensory inputs, and then generates its sensory outputs, our desires, and our actions by means of the attention beam again. So what moves our body-mind device and who is behind its control panel, basically, because yes, we have a device. So who is behind this body-mind device? Let's illustrate this with the following example. Imagine that you bought a brand new computer and brought it home. You put it on the table and you want to see how it works. So what do you need before you can press the power button? Yes, you have to connect this computer to the power source. Insert the plug into the electrical outlet. To start working, the computer needs what? Power. It needs energy. But can such connection with a power outlet happen without our desire? Of course not. You, the observer I am, perform all your actions voluntarily, at your own will. Your body only executes the command of its observer I am, who is kind of saying, I wish, I express my desire, I intend to do something, right? So the same is true for our biological computer, our body-mind device. In order to start functioning, it should also be connected to a power source. Our body-mind device also requires the supply of energy. What is it? What is the source of the energy for each body-mind device? The source of the energy is our own willpower. Willpower, which makes our biocomputer work. And willpower, of course, begins with our volition, with our desire to do something. It is an I am observer, eternal observer, conscious observer, who generates all our intentions. We, I am observers, sense this desire that we get, first sense it in the mind, and then we sense its resonance of this desire in the body. If an observer I am wishes to do something, then he does it. But if an observer I am doesn't want to do something, then he or she doesn't do it. Simply put, when there is no impulse of voluntary desire, then there is no voluntary execution of this action. And our desires are so different. For example, one person I am doesn't want to live. It happens, right? And if he doesn't want to live, then he will not live. But if a person I am wants to live, then he will do everything possible to survive and maintain his body and mind in the working condition as long as possible with the limits of the opportunities known to them. We just got to the next commercial break. Stay tuned. We're going to continue talking about body-mind device. It's extremely revolutionary information. Talk to you in a bit.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
Live Stutter-Free with your host Anna Deeter on BBM Global Network, and TuneIn Radio is back. And as I mentioned at the end of the segment, our brain needs food. Our brain is always hungry. And what is it hungry for? Of course, for information. And for different things that we do with our body-mind device, our brain needs different information. And for example, for speaking, we normally enter information in our speech pipe from one end, eyes, ears, or directly from the input of our memory. And it exits from the other end, which is our mouth. And the way it goes through the speech pipe is together with the flow of CO2, I call it CO2, carbon dioxide. And by the way, you people who start to believe that people need oxygen to speak, this is another lie. We're going to talk about it in the next show. So we speak with the flow of carbon dioxide. So our body basically defecates, throws waste food out of the body through its food pipe, gastrointestinal tract, and in the same way our body also kind of defecates, throws the old information, thought, word out of the body through its speech pipe together with a flow of waste gas called CO2, carbon dioxide. And just like our emptied stomach needs frequent replenishment with a new portion of fresh food, so our empty brain constantly needs a fresh supply of information. Our brain always in need for more thoughts, for more words. And of course, the information we load in our brain for speaking must be suitable for our oral self-expression only, because we speak as we hear. What do I mean by that? I mean that the form of the information that we need for speaking is quite different from the way we may remember this same information for other actions of self-expression. For example, if we know how to write a word in a sequence of letters, it doesn't mean that we know how to utter the same word in a certain precise sequence of sounds. If while speaking, of course not reading out loud, we recall a written word and attempt to speak as we see it in our memory in letters, we will inevitably stumble, because such form of information is suitable only for our written self-expression, or for reading out loud. Of course, reading out loud is a totally different speech mode. And once again, I want to mention that when we speak, there are many, many different speech modes, which we teach each and every our student that enter our 3-day Etalon Speech Gymnastic course. And after graduating from this online course, they completely, totally, 100% eliminate stuttering. Installed and stored on the hard disk of a computer, a written word, written command, or a written name of a file, they are all forms of written information. And this information is good to control, for example, computer's operation. And these programs are called symbolic programs. So they're suitable only for our written communication, but they're not suitable for our oral self-expression. And very often they trigger confusion in the memory of those who stutter. If you, a person who stutters, ever attempt to speak in the way you see letters, this is your block. This is the reason you cannot speak. It is impossible to speak when you see letters, because once again, letters are not suitable for speaking. Letters are suitable for writing and reading. Similar to symbol programs, our body-mind system is controlled by a spoken word, sound command, spoken name of a file folders that we have in our mind, kind of. This voice sound forms of information are called melodic programs. We memorize and keep them in our memory. The more word melodics we know, the bigger intellect we build in our mind. But unlike computers that connect with each other by cable networks or wirelessly, we connect these body-mind personal biocomputers to each other with words. This is why I say that every human operates his body-mind device with words, verbally. Such sound vibrations are kind of our sound Wi-Fi. So this is exactly what we call our speech out loud. But once again, what do I mean when I say that we operate our body-mind system verbally through words? Simply put, we act in response to a verbal command. Whether the command is spoken or written, each integral word, whole word, is a basic form for our action. It is a command. It demonstrates an example, shows a model of behavior, action, work, or desire. We'll finish this thought after we come back from the break. Talk to you in a bit.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
Thank you so much for listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host Anna Deeter on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. So let me explain a little more about our body, mind, basically computer. What is it and what its components are? And because I'm mentioning that this is a computer, I will continue to compare our body-mind device with a computer because it is very simple to understand it in this way. So one part is our physical body. It's a meta part that we sense through our actual sense organs, body sensors. And the other part of our device is our mind. It's a fine matter of information part that we sense in our imagination through our, I call them, mind sensors. Also, we are equipped with a tool to select, measure, operate, and control both parts of our biocomputer. We call this tool of measurement our attention. And so you could understand what attention is. It is similar to a computer mouse that we use to select, measure, operate, and control any information on the computer desktop. Speaking in computer terms, we operate the hardware, the body, and the software, our information in the mind, with the use of the mouse, attention focus. So our physical body with all its organs, including the brain, by the way, remember they tell you that the brain in stutters is not healthy. Wrong, lie. Okay, you have a perfect brain, but you are not using it correctly. But back to what I was saying is our physical body with all its organs, including the brain, is just our hardware. It is our equipment. It's the real substance, the collection of material objects. As part of the body, our brain is just like a hard disk that stores memory on our computer, body mind, okay? So again, let's compare with a hard disk on a computer. There is a programmer who organizes the computer's memory as a room for storing information, software, right? So there is a certain place where the programmer puts all the programs, applications, operating systems, information, data, folders, and so on. The programmer chooses what to download on this hard disk, what program to install, and how to use it in order to operate adequately all computer operations with it, right? So our body is exactly like the hardware of a computer. We, the conscious users of our body and mind, also organize our body as a storage room for keeping information. And this information becomes our software. We form our own conscious memory ourselves. How do we do it? We are constantly choosing what we want to direct our attention to, our mouse attention, right? What to choose for observing and what to choose for remembering. It is always our, again, voluntarily choice. What to see, who to listen to, what to learn, what to memorize and remember for our own benefit. Mr. Snishko has updated the natural law, which is well known by physicists, conventional physicists. They call this law of conservation of energy, conservation of matter and energy. You could have heard the name of this law in this way. But academic Snishko added one more term to this name of the law. The word is information. Today, this law sounds like this: the law of conservation of matter, energy, and information. In short, we call it the law of conservation, MEI. MEI stands for matter, energy, and information. This law of fairness, he also sometimes calls it with different names. It's the law of a mirror, the law of weights, the law of a sand glass. Imagine a sand glass. Whatever sand is in the container of the sand glass, whatever sand particles are on top, eventually the same exact dust or sand particles will be on the bottom part of this sand glass or hourglass, they call it. So the energy preserves itself Whatever is on top will be on the bottom. So, but I like how recently Mr. Snishko calls this law as the law of a pipe. Everything in nature, including our organism, is just a pipe with two openings at the entrance and at the exit, of course. Whatever enters always exits, okay, normally. For example, we have a food pipe in our organism. Every day we put some food in our food pipe's entrance, which is our mouth, to feed our body, right? And normally this food exits from the other end, I guess our anus. Okay, we call things with their names, right? So our brain is also constantly in need for food. But what kind of food our brain needs? It is information that we load and collect in this part of our body in order to perform various actions. And for example, for speaking, we normally enter information in our speech pipe from one end, which is through our ears, through our eyes, or directly from the input from our memory, and it exits from the other end, our mouth. It becomes more and more interesting, right? So when we come back after the commercial break, I'll give you more details, talk to you in a bit.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
And this is Live Stutter-Free with your host Anna Deeter on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. So what is it? A spoken word. Every spoken word is a command. It demonstrates an example, shows a model of behavior, action, work, or desire. We may say stand, stop, go, run, and so on. Other words point to the object of our inspiration, whatever we are interested in, machine, table, food, whatever, it doesn't matter really what it is. That is why our actions always depend on the quality and the number of the words we remember. The quality of the words as well. The words must be whole words, because this is the programming of our memory. And it also depends on the level of our word training. The more names of objects we know, the easier it is for us to understand our own thought words. And the word helps us consciously organize and systematize information in our memory. Such as systematization and order would never be possible without words. In fact, our intellect is the ordered information in our mind. Without a word, there is no intellect. There is no order in our thoughts. And therefore, there is no intelligent person. Okay, so let's take a short example. Let's say you come to a doctor and you complain that you have somewhere pain in your abdomen. The doctor starts asking you some details about what kind of pain you have, where exactly it hurts, and when it started. So why is he doing this? Very simple. He wants to imagine, he wants to see clearly the picture of your medical problem, so he could come up with the correct way of helping you. Okay, so he would decide whether to give you, I don't know, medication, painkiller, or cut off your appendix, right? And what would you do? You would also give him as many words and as precise words as you could to help him to kind of draw this picture. because we all can imagine things based on words. This is the only way we can decide what we want to do. Only we people can operate verbally our body-mind device, because animals do not know words. For example, a dog, everything is just woof for a dog. For a cow, everything is just moo, right? Animals operate their body-mind device mostly non-verbally, of course, except the ones trained to follow humans' verbal commands, right? And yes, we also can operate our body-mind device just like animals. We see the goal and we go for it, okay? We see the object and we just move some object. But you know what? I don't want to kind of put it together in a brief way. I want to go into the details because this is very important. Next Friday, when we meet together, you will learn the rest of little and big details about who you really are. And why this is very important, because when you know who you are, you stop being blinded. You see clearly what is it that you are doing is wrong. This is what exactly blocks you when you get your vision back. And for more information, I recommend you go to our website of a non-profit organization called Speech Academy Etalon International by academic Roman Snishko, and you download and read 2 free ebooks, as well as for a small contribution of only $50, you can learn a lot of truth about stuttering, revolutionary truth about stuttering. If you live in the United States of America, its speech is a skill book. We can ship it to you. Outside of the United States of America, it's a PDF version of the same book, Live Stutter-Free. Talk to you next Friday.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
You've been listening to the BBM Global Network. The ideas, views, and opinions of this broadcast are those of the participants of the program and are not necessarily the ideas, views, and opinions of the BBM Global Network Company.